All right, guys, we're at the Henry Ford. We're gonna go inside here and check it out. Check it out next. All right, guys, we're inside the Henry Ford Museum. Walking down the hallway here where you first come in. Gonna go up here and check out all the exhibits. A lot of automotive stuff here, so it's gonna be real cool. Kind of like how they got this set like a train station. Thomas Edison's signature. All right, guys, this is Reagan's limo. This is actually the one they was in during the assassination attempt. It's a 72. I was wondering what year it was. They're little, for their presidential limos, they kind of cut them a little bit, so makes them a little harder to tell the year. Very, very cool car, though. And over here, wow, 59 Cadillac. Man, they are a one mean machine. All right, I'm gonna walk out here and check out probably the most famous presidential limo. So this is Kennedy's car. Now this is the actual one that he passed away in. Well, he passed away a few months after, but one of the yeah, when it was actually done, it didn't have this roof on it. They actually decided not to put it on, and sadly that's what ended up causing him to get assassinated. He probably would have survived had that bubble roof been on it. So
this car has what they call suicide.
I think it's a 63, I believe is what year this one is. Oh, it's a 61, okay. Like I said, they're a little hard to tell because they are cut up. Alright, so they have like the little plastic mold-o-ramas. These are really cool. They make basically a plastic, like wax-looking mold of, this one's of Kennedy's limo. So, and there it is. It's a little vacuum-formed model of the Kennedy limo. Very, very cool. I'll try to get all these that are car related. Now the Kennedy limo, I think they actually used it for a little bit for Johnson and so forth. So, and this one is beautiful, but I'll show you whose car this one was. It's Ike Eisenhower's, and it was a 50 Lincoln Premier. Obviously they stretched it, did like conversions. This one I can actually tell more what year it was than the others because of the way it's not as cut up as the others are. So that is very, very cool. It's even had the Secret Service steps back then. That's neat. All right, and this one was FDR's, I believe. Yep, FDR's. Now, FDR's is a 39. And back then, all the presidential limos were Lincolns. I think Cadillac didn't start till the 80s because they had a deal with Ford to actually build the presidential limos. So, but this car is absolutely massive, and the reason it's so massive, if you know, FDR was You know, he's in a wheelchair, so they had to have it much longer. And it's a massive car. It's longer than a crew cab long wheelbase truck. I mean, one thing I've noticed cool about FDRs, it actually says police on the back of it rather than it says do not pass. Just a little tidbit different, you know, as they went on the years. Another Motorama here. So we'll go ahead and get this one too. And this one's a Willys gasser, so we'll definitely get that. I don't know if I found one of these drops, but it's really, really cool. And they are super warm, so this one actually dropped. Here you go. Alright, now this carriage was actually Teddy Roosevelt's. It's a 1902, so that was the infancy of cars, so apparently at the time they still used a horseless carriage. I'm not sure what the first actual limo was. I don't think it was his. It seems like there was one in between, and it was actually a motor car built maybe by Mercedes or something like that. I'll have to look that up and I'll insert it in here, but very, very cool. This just shows you the massive scale of some of this stuff. Look at the size of this. And it shows you how amazing this museum is. We're gonna walk by and get a second look at this Cadillac, just because that's my style right there. Then we're gonna loop on around here. And here's a concept self-driving car, which I don't think is a good idea, but it is what it is. So here we have an early stagecoach. Little tidbit, the armored stagecoaches like you see in a lot of games like Red Dead Redemption weren't real common. There were a few of them. They were only used in cities and only used for like a few just like local transport, because they were so heavy and slow they couldn't use them to get away from thieves. So when you see them out like in movies and video games, they weren't like as common as you think. There may be like 4 or 5 of them that were really a real thing. So piano box buggy noise. I guess this one can be considered like a early streetcar, like an omnibus kind of setup. Pretty cool artifacts from it. So I guess they pulled this with, was this one powered or pulled with horses? Yep, these were pulled with horses, so. All right. And as I was talking about yesterday, like when we were at the Cupid Burger, how much cooler things were back then, like how much more inviting. Look at that. And look at a McDonald's today. Wouldn't you rather eat somewhere like this, or the White Castle, or the diner here, than like the modern day versions? I know I would. I mean, this makes me want to stop. This makes me feel invited, want to go in, check this place out. And then here we got a 51 Studebaker Champion. And my grandpa had a Studebaker. I think he had a later one. It was a Lark. So here it talks about like first restaurants, you know, Big Boy. You know, here's the early McDonald's. Really nice 56 Chevy. You know. This is Howard Johnson's ice cream. Actually, I see this one sold. I didn't even recognize it. That's very cool. And this is actually a old train car style diner, and it's actually, you can actually really eat it here. So we might try that here in a little bit.
So we have
So this is early cars, inspired by bicycles, obviously. Yeah. So that's an early steam powered car. The actual Ford quadricycle, which was the predecessor to anything Ford. Korea runabout. Here's actually one of the early electric cars, the Columbia Electric. Now, back then cars were just pretty much carriages with a motor stuck on them, or covered wagons, or whatever you want to call them. Here's the curb dash Oldsmobile. There's a locomobile, if you've ever heard of the locomobile. And there is the Thomas Flyer, which was one of the fastest cars built at the time in the early cars. And you can see here, look, see how they had to go. When we was talking about like old cars, like saying they wouldn't go, these old cars like this would absolutely go better than a new car, because the way they were weighted and slow and geared, they would, even with poor tire choices, they would climb about anything. So, because realistically they're more like tractors. So there's the actual Model T. And if you've ever driven one of these, they're totally different than a modern car. They're more like driving a piece of farm equipment. You don't have like a regular gas pedal or brake. It's a 24 Chrysler. That's a really pretty car. Oh, here's an Essex. That's really cool. Actually, John Dillinger was the last car he drove before he was murdered by the, well, not murdered, I guess captured, but he was ended up ambushed or whatever, how they had to take him down. The last car he drove was an Essex. It's a red one. Red coupe. Flathead V8. It's kind of the motor that revolutionized V8 power. So that's cool. So is that like, yeah, it's a toaster. So yeah, it's a toaster. It's talking about how things streamlined and stuff. That is a beautiful car. You know, that's a LaSalle, which, and here's, you know, the Willys Overland Jeeps. And Ford actually made a military Jeep too, which is odd that they don't have the Ford version here. But Ford actually made one too. They were exactly the same, but Willys made them, Ford made them. They were just war efforts. I think Willys actually designed them and Ford just basically made an exact copy just for the war. And these things could be put together in like an hour when they shipped them. And you got a lot of cool stuff. Look at these toys. It's amazing. You know, it's sad. Toys today, you don't have things like that. I mean, you know, you've got all this interactive stuff, but you know, it's just like the other day, my little girl loves cars like me, and I was looking for something like that, like little plastic cars, and they're not existent almost. So. And here's one of my favorite cars, 49 Ford. This was really the first car that was body over fender, like the older cars, you know, the wheels stuck out and they had fenders over them. But once the 49 Ford came about, they actually changed and kind of revolutionized. Started the actual bodies actually came out over top of the wheels rather than, you know, having fenders and the body just set between the wheels. That's kind of the big innovation, going from like really the carriage to the car, a modern car. Back there is The Beetle. Jeremy's answer to the car. And you can tell this is late 40s as well. And they're tough, but they were real dated compared to Ford. But that's beautiful. It's actual split window. So this is the Mustang Roadster. This was actually the first concept car of the Mustang and what actually evolved into the Mustang. This one, if I'm not mistaken, were rear engine and more like they wanted to make them more like an Italian sports car and stuff rather than what we had based on the Falcon. The GT40 was actually a lot based off of this, so too as well. And these over here are, I guess, CAD drawings for concepts. So I think that one actually is close to what became in production. It's Lexus, Honda. I think these are concepts of electric vehicles. That would actually be fun. Alright, and over here, here's more like models of the concept cars that they would do to show them what they have. And if you've ever seen that one, you recognize what it became, the actual Batmobile. And here's innovations in bumper safety and stuff. Not sure what this one's off of. It looks like a Buick, actually looks like a Buick with Sabre, like from the 90s. And this is an Edison car. I think this was an electric, like, car. Actually, no. Yeah, it was electric power. Oh, they rejected electric power. So, something with this, I can't remember. It was like super light. It range of one take, 600 miles. I was thinking they were electric, but I couldn't remember on that. All right, now we got back over here's the Model A. You can see where, yeah, that changed a lot. Here's the Model B, which I think was only made for like a short time. You know, there was like Model B, C and stuff, but they weren't real. See, here's the S Roadster. Another Model T, the touring car. And if I'm not mistaken, yep, they reused in the Model A when it became the newer Model A. Even though they had made an original Model A. And this was one of the first cars that came more like a car. It had a regular gas pedal, regular brakes, hydraulic brakes, normal type transmission, even though it was standard. Here's the Cabriolet. Wow, that's cool. I would love to have a hot rodded version of that. So this is the Camaro ZL1, factory built race car. You can see the Nuremberg, Germany, designed to race. Drag cars, John Force's car. And here, early stock car jacket. I wonder who's this is. Bob Thompson. Sam Buck and Bob Thompson. That's very cool. If you're a NASCAR fan, which I like older NASCAR. It's kind of lost, but it's actually getting a little better again. It's George Montgomery. I was wondering whose car this was. That's very cool. This is like the Motorama we had a while ago. 33 wheelies coupe drag car. And a lot of drag cars were wheelies because wheelies were super, super light cars. And like I said, the Henry Ford's got a little bit of everything in here, not just cars. Look at all these. These are just like Christmas ones. As I was saying, they have all kinds of Christmas ornaments. Here's some really cool ones. Look at the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. Yeah, they have a little bit of everything here. Just anything you would, if you're, you know, like history of anything. See, Scooby-Doo, that's really cool. And there's just a whole selection of just Christmas ornaments. Really, really cool. So look at all these car-based ones. Oh, those are cool. Old houses. Barbie. A battle car. Very, very cool. Alright, but we're here about cars, but I had to look at it. It was neat to see. So. And over here we got one of Waltrip's stock cars. That's pretty cool. Oh, it's Trevor Baines. I thought it was Waltrip's. It's actually Trevor Baines. It's a Wood Brothers car. I just couldn't remember who drove it that year. Like I said, I don't keep track of NASCAR like I did when I was younger. This is kind of cool. It's like simulation. Just for you gamers out there, you know, that'd be fun to come in here and do. Racing suits. Danica Patrick. Surprised it ain't like the suit ain't even wrecked, but you know, I'm just kidding, Danica. Now, see, I'm more into this type of racing now. GT cars. I don't really know a lot about them, but man, I'm getting where I'm like learning about them a lot and stuff. So. And I like the fact that, you know, they're more realistic, more like street cars, like NASCAR used to be. That's really my big problem with NASCAR is that everything's not like street cars anymore. But now see, like then, here's Buck Baker's Chrysler, or well, Dodge actually. But no, it's Chrysler, I can't remember. Here's Buck Baker's race car. And you can see it on the beach at Daytona. And how much, to me, that is so much better looking than, I know it's probably not as fast, but I mean, it'd be more fun to watch that kind of racing to me than a lot of the modern stuff where it's all just like a cage and fiberglass and specially built. Here is a cutaway of the GT concept, the actual street GT with half cutaway like the actual Le Mans racer, and there's the actual race car. Now that's pretty cool, and that's what I like about that kind of racing, because there's not a lot of difference in the cars. I mean, there is, but not like there is with, it's still really more like the car. That's cool. Even the Indy cars back then were just more, I don't know, more raw. Look at those cars, those are beautiful. Everything today is just kind of, that's what's left one after a wreck. Everything today is just, to me personally, it's just we don't see the actual car aspect of it. It's more like it's just a machine than a car. I wonder how hard, you know, it'd be kind of cool to build like a replica of one of these. I wonder how hard that would be. Probably wouldn't be crazy expensive. That's really cool. Look, for hill climbs like Pikes Peak. Actually, a little tidbit, not this one, but the aluminum front Pontiacs Catalinas were designed for Pikes Peak. Dan Gurney and AJ Foyt.
Each driver has to drive $100. And split that up however you want. You go take $50 stock.
quarter scales. My brother-in-law used to run these when he was a kid, if I'm not mistaken. He ran go-karts, so I'm not sure if they were actually those style. The Locomobile Old 16. That's a very, very famous race car. Well, this is very cool. The toys are very cool as well. I'm also a big fan of toys. Look at all these. Kind of makes you think of like a carnival thing where they have the cars that move. But wow, that one's like fuel propelled. Yeah, that one has actually. So these apparently, some of these had, I guess these are slot cars, old school slot races. That's very cool. I've only seen something like that maybe once. So that's very, very cool. Ford race car. Now that's a thing of beauty. I know the man that's going to love this. Bo, shout out to you, buddy. Bo's daddy had one of those, so. Like the Buicks are for me, that Galaxy's important to him. 55 Chevy. And that is like the rarest color combination from the factory, if I'm not mistaken. The Corvair. My dad actually had a Corvair at one time too. And that's a really nice example. And these cars got a lot of flack because they were built to compete with Volkswagen, and they got a lot of unsafety fact. And realistically, the only thing that was wrong with them, people just would not read the directions and how to inflate the tires to make them handle right. Early Toyota. And back then, Toyotas, almost every one of the cars were rear-wheel drive, and more like a Nova or something than they are today. This is beautiful. Cougar. And there's a big Chrysler Imperial. I think it's a, oh, it's actually a Newport. Okay. Well, I think the Imperial was just an upscale package on the same car. It's a 73. That's really right up my alley. Because I love the mid 60s to the late 70s, all the way to 70s car. The Dodge Omni. Now these are kind of cool. The regular Omni it's just a little economy car, and they were rebadged. I think were rebadged. They might not have been. Apparently no, they were actually built by Chrysler. I was thinking they were rebadged Mitsubishi, so I'm getting them confused with the Starions and stuff. The Conquest. So, but anyway, Carroll Shelby built one of these that was actually turbocharged and was super, super fast. The 91 Ford Explorer. That is the SUV that revolutionized the SUV craze, brought it back. And I did always like those, of course. So, one cool thing that I miss about SUVs, though, if you'll notice, these had truck frames, truck axles. They were basically a Ranger. But, you know, modern SUVs are basically based on cars. And I like the toughness and the usefulness of a real SUV over to me, that's a real SUV, even though what you get now are what I consider CUVs, which are crossovers, but they sell them as SUVs. But a true SUV is something like that right there. You know, my Bronco, for example. You know, something you can use as a truck but haul people in, and that's something I love. I actually had this cell phone. My sister had it in her car. And I vaguely remember these. I remember all this stuff. Remember, I've rode one of those many a times. Dodge Ram Quad Cab. I remember when those come out in 90. That body style came out in 94, I believe, or 93. And it was like, it just stood every other car maker on its head. Now they're just kind of common, but when that came out, that was like the most innovative truck built. And here's the first Prius. You know, and I never did even really know what the first Prius looked like. I remember the one that had like the hatch type thing, the later one, but I'd never seen one of these. There must have not been a lot of them made it out there. Like that. That's cool. Something I collect is old radios too. I like just like old stuff like that. And here's a bunch of car emblems. I love the older fonts. Actually, I had a Blazer with that one on it. Cougar, Hornet, Executive. That's real cool. Dynasty. Mom had one of those. If you don't know what a Dodge Dynasty is, it's a very odd looking little car. There's the early Buick one. Here's an old Oldsmobile. These are a lot of old studs, wheelies, Duesenberg. I think this was a Duesenberg as well. Some of these I'm not even sure what they are because they're so old that, you know, they made like 2 years, 3 years. Like Ville Corp, RFO, I know, Auburn. Some of them are, there's the original Dodge Brothers. That's really nice. There's the Hupmobile. And I was gonna go check out the Hupmobile factory, and apparently it's been demolished for years. That's kind of sad. I hate to see these factories down here tore down. They should have been like historic pieces where you could go check them out. And there's a Haynes, MG, GM, Studebaker. Ooh, that's really nice. A Durant, a Mercer. Look at the old Pontiac logo. That's, you know, you couldn't even get away with that today. Whippet. There's the wheelies when it was Willys Knight, GMC, AMC. Can't remember what that is. It's made the GB. Made the midget, I think. There's the Hudson Super 6. That's cool. The old Lincoln logo. There's an Elgin. A few of these I don't remember. That's a Plymouth right there. That's REO, so that's Oldsmobile before it was Oldsmobile. I think that's Studebaker too. I'm getting it. This is MG maybe. There's another old Plymouth. There's another. That's a Durant. Oh, that's very cool. Here's a Peerless. Something you don't see. I'm not sure what that one is either. We should have the names of them all, like, so you know what they are for people that don't know. I mean, I know 99% of them. Forgot about those cars. But I know 99% of them, but I wish they had them, what they were. Look at that New Yorker sign. So much more class back then. That's just what I'm saying. Look at this. This is something I wish we had. I filmed the one in Paris when we were leaving on the road trip, but I wish we had a drive-in. This is like a drive-in theater modeled. I wish we had one. I would love to go one. I haven't been. There used to be one local when I was a kid. You just don't get that in kind of enjoyment. The Ecotec Lakester and the Ecotec drag car. I remember when that one was actually running well. Here's an early Packard. Very cool. Oh, this is nice. Model T again. Look how high that roof is. You know, and if I built one of these in a hot rod, I'd leave the roof that high. I just never liked the chop top. It's just never been my style. Thunderbird, that's really cool. I guess this is probably a vintage. Yep, that's a vintage toll gate back there behind it. That's kind of neat. Hello. Here's the toll collector's badge. And oh, cool, the early fuzzbird. That's the first radar detector right there. Early cruise control units. I actually had one of these somewhere. I don't know where it's at now. You know, I lost so much when we had the devastating flood, so. The tent trailer, and this is what camping before it was camping. This is what evolved into your regular pull-on campers. we're gonna try to take a trip one time to Elkhart, Indiana too, and check those out, because that's the actual RV museum, and there's all kinds of those in there. Here's the Airstream. I guess this is before they started the double axle, larger ones. And of course, the Volkswagen, as everybody did. And cool toys as well. Some little trinkets and things. Oh, that's cool. How to build trailers. I would actually like to read that. Here's early roadside lodging, which is your motels back in the day, which is also something. It's kind of cool. And let me tell you something. I'd probably rather stay in something like this than the Red Roof Inn. It's just bad. You know, this is your early lodging. And this is kind of cool because you were in just like a bungalow and you didn't really have like connected to everybody. So you had a little more, in my opinion, a little more peace, you know. You know, this is the vacation. So that's what I was saying about like road trips and roadside. That was, you know, the fun of it that nobody really does anymore. So, diesel and steam. And here's a steam touring car. And I've made this argument a little bit, but you know, everything's trying to go electric. Steam runs on water. Couldn't we make something modern that fires up at a second, that we don't have to set and like stoke and all that, you know, and steam's like super powerful. So couldn't we make a modern version of something like this? There is the Winkle. And if you've ever driven an RX-7, that's what you get. Which I have. It's been a while. Look there, fuel cell. That's neat. Here is the Chrysler Turbine sedan, and these were really cool, but I think they used like they were like more like an airplane. And I think they made 60 of those total. 50. And there's the General Motors EV1, which actually is what Saturns were originally designed on, but this was the General Motors electric car. And I think this is the only one left. Here's the, I forget the name of this one, but commuter car, yeah. I couldn't remember what they were called. I remember seeing them when I was a kid. So there's the Woods dual power hybrid, and that's really cool. That was, and there's an electric car. I'm surprised they don't have a what's the big famous electric car, but they don't have one of these in here. That's kind of odd. I figured they would. Alright, we're gonna walk on over here. Here's a replica of an old school garage, which I would love to personally own something like that, just set up, you know, as my shop. Probably never happen. Oh, look there. Very, very cool though. Oh, okay. Let's walk over here and check these two out. I didn't even see them. I love this. This is like, I'm not even sure it's a replica or it was actually probably brought in here knowing it's a museum. It's really, really cool. There's the kind of lights we want to put outside the shop. Look at that. Oh, billboard. Oh, wow. Here's something I've got a lot of cool stuff of, and I probably have some of these that's in here actually. But these are all the old brochures you used to get in advertising things. I have some of these old brochures sitting around like you could get at the car deal. We used to go down to the car lot every year. I actually have that one that's got that Chevrolet on it. There's a brochure, the whole brochure, like the dealer brochure. You used to be able to go down to the car lot and get a brochure, tell you all about the features and options of the cars. If you were interested in buying one. Dad would go look at something, I would go grab every one of them off the shelf and take them home with me. So there's a 65 Mustang. The Mustang actually started in 64 and a half. And they were basically a Falcon with a different body. But that car really revolutionized the world. Here's another car that also kind of revolutionized the world for front wheel drive. and I'm not a big front wheel drive guy, but I gotta give it respect, and that's the Ford Taurus. You know, that made the American front wheel drive car popular. And they weren't bad cars. We never had one of those. We actually test drove a few of them. We actually ended up buying the General Motors W body, which was the Grand Prix and Illumina, which were the competitors of those. And we had a couple of those, and they were pretty good cars too. I mean, there's the Kaiser Traveler. That is beautiful. And I think this is the one that the seats let down in. The Kaiser that did that, pretty sure. I'll get to it. So, okay. Here's some old gas pumps. That's something else I'd like to have. We've been looking for a traffic light recently. I'm sure we won't be able to get nothing that old, but we've been looking for one put in the apartment above the shop. And here's your early interventions of car seats. I probably had one of these when I was in the 80s. And here is the safety car. And you know, it had a lot of inventions that actually ended up on regular cars, but here was like the first one, and it's wild and crazy. It was built by insurance companies, but Cornell Liberty has handles for steering instead of that. You sit in the middle. Did have like a early rudimentary seat belt, all kinds of safety, wraparound bumpers, head restraints. It's kind of crazy, but it did invent a lot of safety. A couple parking meters here. It's something else I've been trying to find just to put up as a decoration. Plymouth Forger. Papa tried out one of those with wood grain and almost bought it just to have it to take on trips, and then he changed his mind right at the last. Was pretty cool for the time, I'm not gonna lie. All right, let's get to this one. The airflow. Oh, and I didn't get the pumps over there, but Dodge airflow truck. That is like one of my favorite trucks. I would love to have one of those. I don't think they made very many, but and they didn't really do the airflow for aerodynamics. They just did it for just style. But it is so beautiful. And you gotta say that's the most, that looks more modern than most cars did in the 30s. There's a Plymouth Deluxe Suburban station wagon. And it was kind of odd because Chevrolet has a Suburban, which is the big long SUV that I actually would like to have a square version of. But the Plymouth also had the Suburban, which was just a station wagon used for travel as well. Kind of odd that they both use both names, but that's what it is. There's an Overland before Overland and Willys combined. So. And here's a checker cab. Now, a marathon checker. Now, here's the thing too. These were pretty cool cars. And most of them were taxi cabs, but they did make civilian models. There's a movie with, I can't think of his name, played Dan on Night Court. But anyway, he's that, if I'll insert a thumbnail of it. But there's a movie he done where he actually, in the movie, he drove a civilian version. And you had different lengths in these too. There was a longer version. There was also like the Aerobus and a station wagon version. And they used a lot of Chevrolet running gear and stuff. So they were kind of cool. They're kind of like a 55 Chevy in a way, but not exactly. But I mean, they were a lot similar. But these make really, really good looking cars. And they built them, even though they look like a 50s car, they were built all the way up into the 80s. This one's actually an 81 right here, for example. But these make a really, really good looking car when they're fixed up. Like I said, the movie that he's in, John Lorquette just came to me. That movie he's in is a beautiful car. Here's an early Packard. And here's some crazy, there's a bicycle, I don't know what. And there's one of those folding bikes, that's pretty cool. Not sure what that bike is. Here's a Segway. Those kind of just disappeared. That's really cool. CBR 750. Yeah, I'd like to have some more motorcycle based content, motorcycles in my collection. Maybe work on one of these days. I know I'm not great about motorcycles. I knew a lot about ATVs and stuff, but never really had a motorcycle. So that, again, with the brightness and hey, this catches your eye, you know, and my logo kind of is based off stuff like that. So, you know, and we don't have that no more. Everything's plastic. Just not my thing. And there is the first Corvette, which is the only Corvettes that weren't V8s. They actually had the straight six in them. And there's a DeSoto. DeSoto was another car that Dodge, Chrysler, Mopar had. And it was, I'm not sure where it fit into place, but of the early 50 Mopars, that's probably my favorite. I like the DeSoto's looks better than any of them. And here's the thing weird too, that kind of like General Motors, how you had different engines for each make. Obviously, Buick had its own engine, Oldsmobile had its own engine. DeSoto's had their own engines different than what Dodges would or Chryslers would. One would have the polyhead, one would have the Hemi. So, and that's just how they offered them. They were, I don't think it was a holdover like General Motors where they were different car makes and combined. It was just they tried different things. Holiday Inn memorabilia. Also probably not. Here's an early Packard. And here's some crazy, there's a bicycle, I don't know what. And there's one of those folding bikes, that's pretty cool. Not sure what that bike is. Here's a Segway. Those kind of just disappeared. That's really cool. CBR 750. Yeah, I'd like to have some more motorcycle based content, motorcycles in my collection. Maybe work on one of these days. I know I'm not great about motorcycles. I knew a lot about ATVs and stuff, but never really had a motorcycle. So that, again, with the brightness and hey, this catches your eye, you know, and my logo kind of is based off stuff like that. So, you know, and we don't have that no more. Everything's plastic. Just not my thing. And there is the first Corvette, which is the only Corvettes that weren't V8s. They actually had the straight six in them. And there's a DeSoto. DeSoto was another car that Dodge, Chrysler, Mopar had. And it was, I'm not sure where it fit into place, but of the early 50 Mopars, that's probably my favorite. I like the DeSoto's looks better than any of them. And here's the thing weird too, that kind of like General Motors, how you had different engines for each make. Obviously, Buick had its own engine, Oldsmobile had its own engine. DeSoto's had their own engines different than what Dodges would or Chryslers would. One would have the polyhead, one would have the Hemi. So, and that's just how they offered them. They were, I don't think it was a holdover like General Motors where they were different car makes and combined. It was just they tried different things. Holiday Inn memorabilia. Also probably not. And I remember staying in the Holiday Inns when I was a kid in the mid-80s, and they looked like this. They were holdovers from the 70s, is what I was trying to say there. And but You know, they hadn't changed, they hadn't updated. And I remember staying on a lot of motels that looked like that. Alright. Now we're getting into locomotives, and I like locomotives too. Like I said, I like anything that moves or anything that's mechanical. And this is an early train. As you can see, they just put stagecoaches and put train wheels on them like those. And a steam engine up there. They didn't really have the conductor sit right there rather than like they do on an enclosed train. It's really wild to see. And then when you see a little more innovation here, it's still a steam engine, but the engine's a little more enclosed, a little more pizzazz to it. And I guess the conductor stood on this one. Wow. Then we get to, this is actually the presidential locomotive. It was used, I think, I remember one of the presidents, I did a tour and stood on the back of it. I want to think it was Lincoln, but, well, no. 1860 to 1929. That was after Lincoln. But one of the early presidents, he used this heavily. I'd have to look it up, but. And remember, this was basically Air Force One when you were in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Wow, it's amazing to look at. I would love to see inside it. Maybe we can get over there. And this is an early snowplow. And Jonathan was real amazed with this one. Because this one is so old that you actually, like the new ones are just the skid part. Or the newer ones. This one actually had basically was a caboose that they cut up and armor plated. And you sat in it and they rode in it and told the driver what to do. The later ones just bolted on the front of the train. Guys, I can't tell you how massive this thing is, but this, and I've rode on some steam trains, but this one is massive. All this is so massive, you wouldn't even know. This is probably bigger than my house. That's probably 25 feet up there. I mean, my head's as high as this right here, if that tells you anything. That's the running board. Wow. Very cool. Bessemer Steel. Oh, that's cool. Bessemer Steel was Pennsylvania, I believe. Very cool. Another passenger car. Now I took a dinner train one time and you got to ride in one of these and eat. It was very cool. There's one it's down in Bardstown. One of the best meals I've ever had too, but it was definitely worth the experience. All right, we're gonna walk over here and check out some more. All right, I didn't see this before I was walking by, but here you can actually walk up and look inside the presidential train. See the inside really good. Yeah, that's kind of odd. It was just kind of like a painted. I'm not sure if this car was actually the president's or just the train engine, but I mean, it's nice and comfortable. You know, it's just basically a train car with their actual coal stove to heat with. That's something you don't see a lot of now either. They rarely use cabooses anymore. They just adopted electric red light on the back, like the sensors and stuff. Now, you see them every once in a while, but I would see them occasionally on the coal trains still, but 99% of the time I never see one. That was the man that sat in the back, and the drivers would sleep in there too when they would switch out, but then somebody would sit in the back and use watch. That's why there's an outlook. Make sure nothing went on the tracks that need to be done. Whole baggage claims. Detroit, Mackinac Island. That's cool. So this one has like baggage and cars separate. A lot of times they would just have like the baggage cars is different than the seat cars, but that's kind of cool. It's different. Now, I'm not sure the history, what this story is with this one. Ingersoll Rand. So it's Ingersoll Rand that makes like the air tools. I'm not sure if this was some kind of armored or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll go over here and check out the other trains up front here. And then we got some more car stuff. So here's an old freight car. And they still kind of look like this, except they're just metal now instead of wood, but that's kind of how they still are. They've not changed very much. And that's wood, which is weird because I'm used to seeing coal on these old trains because I live in coal country. And this Chesapeake, Ohio train. We'll walk up here and check this out. And that's just a coal hopper like I was talking about, but that is a massive coal hopper. And you look at the size of this train. What was that, 50, 60 feet? Maybe longer than that. It's probably as long as the rental trailer up there at the shop. I mean, probably close to 70 or 80. There's inside the hopper, coal hopper, the coal dumped down, and they just shovel it out. Looks like this one actually has a, no, that's actually, I've never seen that before. Most of them you had to shovel. That one's actually got a drill, like a screwdriver that fed it in. Wow, very amazing. And we're gonna go check that out. That's very cool. Very cool little model of it. I mean, you look at the model, that's probably like probably 143 scale. It's 5 feet long. 4. It's insane. So I guess this is a blacksmith shop they brought in. A lot of the buildings were legit what they are. They're not replicas. Henry Ford curators, Henry Ford curators just bring them in. That's cool. That's all built out of wood and hand-formed steel. These models, ooh, I like that. This would have been an electric car like ran in a city, like a, not actually like a cable car like that ran in town, but these would have ran transport from like one city to another only by electricity, which is very, very cool. Oh wow, a model Wienermobile running on the tracks. Very cool. I've actually got an old Lionel model railroad and that my papa bought me years ago, and I don't have it set up nowhere. I would love to set it up. I may later on set it up in the apartment up there above the shop. Very, very cool though. I love models too. I thought about doing some model stuff on the channel, or if I ever get big enough where I can do a second channel, maybe do some model stuff. I don't know how people would like to see it. You interested in like maybe see me like on some off days do some model stuff? Let me know. Hit me up in the comments there. Tell me what you think. Very cool little model of it. I mean, you look at the model, that's probably like probably 143 scale. It's 5 feet long. 4. It's insane. So I guess this is a blacksmith shop they brought in. A lot of the buildings were legit what they are. They're not replicas. Henry Ford curators, Henry Ford curators just bring them in. That's cool. That's all built out of wood and hand-formed steel. These models, ooh, I like that. This would have been an electric car like ran in a city, like a, not actually like a cable car like that ran in town, but these would have ran transport from like one city to another only by electricity, which is very, very cool. Oh wow, a model Wienermobile running on the tracks. Very cool. I've actually got an old Lionel model railroad and that my papa bought me years ago. And I don't have it set up nowhere. I would love to set it up. I may later on set it up in the apartment up there above the shop. Very, very cool though. I love the models too. I thought about doing some model stuff on the channel, or if I ever get big enough where I can do a second channel, maybe do some model stuff. I don't know how people would like to see it. You interested in like maybe seeing me like on some off days do some model stuff? Let me know. Hit me up in the comments there. Tell me what you think. So there is an old like trolley car and another one. I wish they had more of these places. I'll tell you. Like, you know, Cincinnati did put theirs back, and there is some here in Detroit, which is kind of cool. But I wish they had them a lot of places. Yeah, this is the Marmon Walsh. This was the first IndyCar winner. You can see how they kind of started already playing with aerodynamics and stuff for racing. That's kind of cool. Wow. This Bugatti is amazing. Look how long that thing is. I'm guessing it had a 16-cylinder engine. Probably actually was the same engine that was used in a plane. Here's a Duesenberg. These are $1 million cars right here, guys. It's insane to look at. Here's a Accord. This was like the first front-wheel drive car was the Accord. And like I said, I don't love front-wheel drives, but the look of these cars is amazing. Here's a Lincoln Continental. Actually, they were just called the Continental back then. This was basically what Edsel Ford drove. And here we have the Lincoln Zephyr. Oh, these are such cool cars, such cool cars. Suicide rear doors, the first ones that had them of the Lincolns. Just really, really cool cars. And the Lincolns had a bigger flathead in them than the Fords. They're really cool. So here's a Duria Trap, which is one of the early horse cars. Oh, they do have a Detroit Electric Model 47. This was the car I was talking about. I was like, I'm surprised they didn't have one over there with the electric cars, but they do. This was like the electric car that really, really sold for a few years that everybody remembers. And they didn't have steering wheels. They just had like a lever to drive them. The Edsel. A lot of people didn't like these cars. I think the Edsel is one of the most beautiful cars ever built. Would love to have one of those too. And up here, if you've ever seen the movie Tucker, there it is. It's also a car that's worth like $1 million. And these things were rear engine, had an airplane, or actually a helicopter engine in the back of them, I believe. They were really cool. They had a lot of safety in it. And then, actually, the big three kind of felt threatened by them and kind of shut them out of business, which is sad, but that's how life is. There's another side. This is kind of like the car Dillinger was killed in, but his was a coupe and it was red. That's the car he drove to the theater. I'm sorry, he drove an Essex. There's the LaSalle Roadster. Really, really cool. LaSalle, I think, became part of another car company. I want to think it was part of Buick, but that might have been McLaughlin in Canada. I would have to look it up. I can't remember who it came to. My OU limousine, so that's basically the Locomobile. The Honda Accord LX. Rode one of them when I was a kid. You know, these cars actually didn't have a lot of room in them though, like you would think like a modern car does. They were really tight. Well, that's cool. So it's got a V-twin motorcycle engine in it. And you had a lot of these cars that were designed with that in them. So, Warrior concept car. So So I'm guessing that thing was super tough. Mickey Thompson does it, or McKinley Thompson, I'm sorry. I really don't know nothing about this little car. First time I ever seen it, but that's really, really cool. I would take that home. Federal. So I'm guessing Federal, if, you know, I've never known the Federal car company, but when I saw this, I was like, that's old Diamond Rio, but apparently, or a Diamond T, but apparently it's not. I'm guessing Diamond T bought out Federal because the Diamond T's look exactly like that. Look at the old trailer. I'd like to have that. So cool. Garden of man. It's so cool. I like how the early trailers look. You know, something I was always wondering too, like the hitches. Like, I know the fifth wheels were similar, but I'm like the old ball hitches and stuff. Did they look the same? I've never seen one before, like the 70s, so or 60s. So I don't know. This was the on-the-road motorhome that they used in the TV series where they would travel all these places. This was kind of like what actually got like motorhome travel really, really popular. Was this right here? You notice that says Jerry Unser Motor Company. Well, that's very, very cool. So 56, I believe, from the cab. Here's Jerry Unser. Jerry Unser was a famous race driver, if you don't know. Or he was famous in racing. I can't remember. He was actually like a Jerry Unser Motor Company. That's really cool. 56 Ford. There's uniform over there, coveralls. Here's an early truck. And again, and this is electric. That's cool. So it's a wood electric truck, but trucks just basically a stagecoach. That's all they were. It's an old roadway truck. And yeah, it's a cab over Ford. And I've seen some of these, not really when I was younger, like really, really little. There's still some of these on the road. Those cab overs are very cool. You don't have those no more. I don't know if it's a safety concern or what, but they're very cool. Wouldn't care to have something like that and make a rollback out of it. I would paint that paint combo too. Rapid bus. So this is like a city bus, early city bus. And here is the first Bluebird school bus. Bluebird still builds buses today, but this was the first one. And they basically just stuck a wood cabin on top of I guess it's, not sure if they're Fords. I think they were Ford, yeah. So 27, that would be a Model 8, I believe. So I bet it's 27 Ford, basically truck. And they stuck a wood cabin on it to make the first school buses. And they're not a lot different today. It's just more metal and they're a little more inventive. They've actually got windows and heat in them, but you know, very similar. Now guys, I'm just walking around in just any order. I'm not sure if there's a way to go to it, but I missed this while ago. I guess it was real crowded over here. I missed the actual Goldenrod Land Speed car and the Lakester that they use for land speed racing. Let's go over and get a shot of that. Here's another one that I actually Ford 999. What kind of power did this thing have? $1156 cubic inches. That's a big motor. That's a big four-cylinder. That would probably be really, really fast. The Ken Block car. That's very cool. The Ken Block stuff. And there's the Belly Tech Racer. This is something else I thought about, like just building just for be doing it.
I remember that one.
Be kind of cool. Probably be real cheap to do. Looks like he's a man of style with his hat just like mine, but It's very cool. And there's the goldenrod. And this car held the record for 25 years, so yeah, I think one of those would be fun just to try to recreate. Some old trophies here. Very, very cool. Look at that one. Elk heads on it. Deer antlers. Yeah. This is the inside of the diner train car. Very, very cool.
Okay, you guys, are you ready?
Wish we could have sat in here, but it was kind of packed. There's the original menus. Wow. No, sorry.
Okay.
Very, very cool. Check out the tile. Very, very cool. Be nice if they had some of those that was on there, huh? Oh, check that out. That's very cool.
Okay, coming right up.
This is so cool. I love these lights too. I would like to have some of those at home. Wherever you would get us at. I'm sure they're really, really old. I think they said 47, 46, something like that a year. Very, very cool. Got a sloppy joe, some chips. Wasn't really expensive, very good looking. So I got a sloppy joe and chips, and really, really good. Sloppy joe and sloppy joe, yeah. It actually tastes like a homemade sauce. It's not definitely not Aunt Mammon's. They're making their own stuff. It's really good. So they call it Lammy's Diner in here. Pretty good food. Pretty good. Don't think I got those a while ago either. The White Castle stained glass and the A&W. Hey guys, if you're liking the footage, would you hit this Jeffrey Rig sign over here and hit subscribe. And here's like the history of the Lammy's Diner, and they just, looks like they just picked it up and set it on a truck and drove it in here. Didn't change anything on the inside. 49, I was wrong on the year. Very, very cool. It was in Massachusetts. 46, I was right. No, I was right. Okay. Very cool. Now, another thing they have here, and I am going to check all it out because I'm going to check out everything, but I'm not probably going to sit and talk about. They have like some furniture stuff. This really doesn't fit with the channel, but planes do to me. Like I said, we're all transportation. So, and you know, cars are the main focus, but planes are cool too. So we're gonna go check out the aviation section. 26 Ford Flyer. This will be full. Wow. Oh, I like that map. That's nice.
He wants to find it.
I love these old brochures and stuff. And that is probably one of my favorite planes in the world.
I can't,
You remember Indiana Jones, the second one, Temple of Doom? This is what they flew in that movie. I think Casablanca they used one. I'm not sure if this is the original one. This one was actually Henry Ford's personal one, so. But wow, it's a beautiful plane. Wow, look at that engine. It's just Boeing. Look there at that picture of Boeing. It's cool. flat suit. Let's see, that's very cool. Oh, that's very neat. Site map with a roller, that's very, very cool. I guess it's some innovation they do. Pretty cool though. I guess this is an old radio tower. Very neat. Here's a replica of the Wright brothers plane, an exact replica. Can you imagine how scary it was to actually fly on that thing when they first done it? Probably scary and exciting. Very, very. Oh. That's fairly cool. Here's a Wright bicycle. Originally the Wright brothers were a bicycle. And they decided to start into planes. Oh, look here. Wow. Detroit News. Look at that one. I guess that's... I don't know how that one flew. Or did it? I'm not sure. Some of these didn't fly very well. Wow. Very, very cool. Okay, our wing walkers. Those guys were crazy. We've got an innovative thing over here, like you can feel like you are one. That's kind of cool. Probably not going to do it because of time, but it's very cool. This is kind of cool too. Look at these old grandstands. That's really cool. And they have like statues of what people would have looked like back then watching it. Here's another 3-engine plane. Wow. See the skis so it could land in the snow. That's really cool. Alright guys, the GoPro batteries are just drained. So we're going to do the rest of the video on the phone right quick. But there, that's very cool. Go here and check out some more. My favorite plane in here is actually the Douglas, and I'll show you it in just a second once we check out this radio stuff here. Up here is my personal favorite plane in here. The Douglas DC-3. This, if I was absolutely loaded where I could afford a plane, I would probably find one of these old guys and have it for myself. Yeah, just another good shot of that Douglas. That is so cool. Alright, we got the GoPro back here. Let's do the Douglas on it. Love that thing. Had to stop and take a little charge break. Didn't get to do my batteries last night. The plug-in in the motel room the springs were wore out in it and it wasn't wanting to stay. So let's go over and check out all this fun stuff. These are pretty cool too. These are like inventive early steam engines. So you can see, look at that, that's cool. Early power transformers. Light bulb production. Very, very cool. Look at that. Wow. And I really like these big engines too. Old generators. Ain't steal the copper like crazy up home. That's cool though. Look at all. Go over and check out, look at all these tools, vintage tools. all those. Probably actually have some flowers I could sell. Crazy amount of tools here. Look at that. I guess this is a water generator. That's what makes you power in your house. And this is, I believe, the engine from a ship. Look at this. Wow. Like I said, if you love anything technology, cars, anything, this is your heaven. Look at this. Wow. Look at these miniature ones. Little miniature ones. Replicas, I guess. Or are those actual power? I believe those are replicas. I'm not sure if those are just mini ones or replicas. To be honest with you, I think they're replicas though. Look at all this. Look at this old derrick pump engine. Wow. I used to, when I was a kid, we had the ones like that did oil up beside our houses that pumped gas and oil. I used to love to go up, ride my bicycle up where they was up on the strip job road and just watch them run for hours. Those old derrick. Wow.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, just amazing stuff everywhere you go in this place. Amazing. The old windmill. These engines. Windmill powered engine. Water wheels. Now, this is kind of cool too. I'm not a gun collector myself, but I'm sure a lot of my people will love. I'll just do a quick branch through, but all these vintage firearms and powder horns, all that. It's really cool. I'll just do a quick branch through. Yeah. Actually, I have a shotgun similar to that. Yeah, very cool. Like I said, I'm not anti-guns at all. I love guns. I don't collect them. I don't know a whole lot about them, but I have a few of my own. And you know, I totally pro-gun. Trust me. Just don't collect them. I just have the ones that I need, and that's what I have. So go over here and get a couple more Motoramas, as they're called. Now, I'm not gonna get every Motorama because I just want the ones that are like car based. But this one's the Mustang, so you know, that's right up our alley. And same process, every one of these. So I want the Mustang. There's the Wienermobile I actually already have. Jonathan brought it back to me when he went a long time ago. But there's one more I think that I really want. I can't remember what it is. Where is it? It's still hot, so I'm letting it cool. There's the Mustang. Some Rosa Parks stuff, and you know, Martin Luther King. And we're going to talk a little bit about that stuff too, even though, you know, it's not actually the car related stuff, but it's kind of important now. We don't want to pass it up. So we're going to walk in here. We'll make a quick pass through some of this stuff. that's not really pertaining to the channel, but we still want to see it. Like I said, some of the stuff we're gonna go kind of past, but I still want to show it, just because I just want everybody to see how crazy this place is. Because I feel like it's important. See, some things are really important even to see, even though if they're not part of a car channel. So I like to show it off at least. George Washington's cot. Lincoln's chair. Oh, this is Supreme Court chair. Lincoln's chair is in here. Sorry, Supreme Court chair. Lincoln's chair is in here too. And here's something I kind of do. I do like these old glass bottles. I got a bunch of collections. I like anything antique, really. So let's go through here. And we'll go back through here. This is kind of a maze. It's kind of crazy, but a lot of historic stuff. Oh, that's an exit. Oh, no. This. There is Lincoln's chair. And now here is the stuff that I feel like is important to talk about that's not good. This is terrible stuff, but this is the one thing about history that I just am not a fan that happened, but it happened. And I always say everybody is just humans. There's no difference in people. So, as you can see, yeah, I mean, segregation and all that stuff. People are people. Everybody's a human. Everybody should be treated as a human. And I mentioned, you know, while we were checking out Rosa Parks, this is the bus that Rosa Parks refused to move out of. So this is the bus she refused to get out of, and it's here in the museum. So I felt like we should show this off and show her when we showed her grave, because this is a pivotal point of history and travel. And you know, it's a cool old bus, don't get me wrong, I love the bus, but the very cool old ads and stuff.
That's impressive.
So I felt like, you know, it was important to show her grave when we were there at the thing, even though it wasn't, because this is part of transportation history, a big part, not only just American history, but transportation history. So, you know, and I'm just showing off some of the other stuff that's in here while I'm here, in case somebody, you know, that's watching the channel wants to come back and see it all, because it's pretty cool. And we'll just get another little shot of the bus, just because. What brand is this bus? It's a General Motors. Yep, General Motors coach. So you know, it's a cool old bus, but then, you know, it's got a very important message behind it as well. Rugs, some old machinery. I'm not sure if this was actually used for like weaving and such. Now here's something I actually do enjoy, and I have some collected, is old telephones. I actually have a few like that, one like that. I actually had an old vintage rotary old telephone, but the flood got it. Some of this machinery is still amazing. Alright, and there's an exploded Model T, like took apart. Show you how it was all assembled. Very, very simple compared to, I mean, I think I could build that from scratch. So, very, very simple. Now, there's a bunch of like furniture stuff here and such. And I'm just gonna make a quick pass through it because here's some of the assembly line ideas, which also is building the Model T. There's some more like just furniture stuff here. So that's like old time clocks and stuff like they would use in the Ford plants and so forth. Grinders, lathes, mill machines. Very, very cool. And here's another Motorama that we're going to get. Just a second here. This one is the Model T, so we'll definitely get it. So I'm showing a Model T after production. I think there's just one more of these Motoramas I'm going to get. There's one, it's another car. I think it's the newer F-150. Probably get it. We might get Henry Ford too, just because he's Henry Ford. But these are like the last few I'm getting, so said I don't really need. I think there might be one for, let's see here. So like I said, I've already got the Wintermobile at home, so I don't need it. I would like to have Henry Ford and the F-150. They're right at the front. We'll get them on the way out. I'm really glad the Model T is black, because Henry Ford said you can have a car any color you want as long as it's black. And the real reason they said they were black was because black hide stuff. Because back then machining, and they wanted them to, they didn't have to worry about the bodies being as perfect as like say a LaSalle or something like that. That would have been red or blue. So they did all these are old, you see it's a glass press. All these are old factory machines. Very, very cool. But the real reason they did all that was so, hey, the buyers wouldn't be able to see like little dings and waves in the body as bad, because they made them like just a lacquer black. Some more weaving machines and such. Some more firearm making, which is very cool. Here's a exploded shoe shop. And we'll just be in here just a moment, but it's very cool. Kind of looks like my shop. I believe that shop was cleaner than mine. So gear cutters, things, you know, the things that made the cars alive. And here is Henry Ford's violins, which I have no concern about them, but these are worth millions. So here's some of the furniture aspects. So before indoor plumbing, like chamber pots, and as you can see, wash basins and stuff. Here's more the area I like when it comes to furniture. Oh yeah. Let's see, the TV, the sewing machine, that's right up my alley still. The record players. Cool stuff I would like to have. Old high chairs. Really like the metal, it's like 50s looking table. Yes. Oh, I really like the lamp there. See, I like all this stuff, even though it's not really pertaining exactly to the channel. It's still nice to see. And now this place, this is 20th Century America. And that's what I'm really all about with my classic cars and stuff. So we definitely got to check this out. showing what an old theater is like, I imagine. Old Nickelodeon films. So you get to watch one of those movies while you're here, if you've never seen them. Old cameras, more old phones. I guess that's like a coffee maker. Those are toasters. I've actually got one of those. I've got one of those on. That's very cool. Kids' books. The old magazines. Actually, my phone is actually one of my collection of vintage phones is actually that one right there. Just exactly like that. So, Hollywood souvenirs from bygone eras. It's very cool. Old magazines. That's nice. Kind of makes you wish you could just hang on to everything. An old radio, what it's like to be living in a living room in the 30s with listening to the radio. 50s with the juice boxes and record players. I've seen one of those. Somebody in my family actually had a record player like that. I think I actually had one of those Zenith radios. It's very cool. Vintage cool desk. I'd like to have that desk for my office actually. I've seen look there. We actually have this radio at home, I think. Unless it got hit by the flood. I can't remember. But I'm pretty sure we still have that one. We have a record player similar to this. It's an actual RCA. And those are worth a lot of money. The 8-track tapes we do got. And here's some vintage TVs. I think the earliest one I own personally is probably from the late 70s, early 80s. I would really like to have one of these though too. I just like to collect stuff like that. Here's an old portable TV, which is very, very cool. Some more old phones. I remember the Snoopy phone well.
Craig.
The Atari for you gaming guys. Old VCRs. Oh, I remember those phones. Things from when I was a young kid, like the original Furby and stuff. I think my sister still got one put up somewhere. So that's very cool. Now we're going to check out the Dymaxion house. I'll say it right in a minute. Which was the House of Tomorrow. If you've ever watched a Tex Avery cartoon with the House of Tomorrow, this is what it was based off of. So that's the bathroom. Something like, yeah, you would see on a submarine or an RV. Minimalistic. Adjustable lighting. Motorized shelves that she's showing there.
Panels of this place sit side by side instead of overlapping to create a watertight seal. To everyone besides Buckminster Fuller, it sounds like a design flaw. Yeah, pretty much.
This is the back of the motorized shelves. And then they had like a way to vent inside the house here. It was motorized. And then rainwater came in, they'd catch it and use it for like washer, dryer, and all that stuff. So it's pretty cool. Okay, so apparently the refrigerators were drawers, and this was all the kitchen, and your washer, dryer set right here, laundry. And then just minutes, let's get cabinet, stove. And like you can see here, your refrigerators were here, there were cabinets and drawers. So it's pretty wild. So this is the living room with the kitchen combo. I really like that couch and the table. I actually like the design of everything. So actually a pretty big living room. This one had the optional fireplace and it was like super expensive, but it had that as well. So it's pretty cool setup. Really not no worse than living in, say, a motorhome or something like that, the people that do that. So, or these tiny homes that you see now. So, you know, it's pretty cool. We'll take a video as we walk by here. Sorry I did this on the phone again. I couldn't change batteries quick enough to get in here with the tour. So they've got a little art exhibit more for kids and stuff. So it's like all these metal dinosaurs. So I'll mention them, but I'm not gonna go in there. So here we're gonna blow through the farm equipment right quick, because obviously this is something we may be working on too. Very, very cool. You can actually go up in that New Holland there. Now I'm walking up the steps here to this combine so I can see what it's like just to be inside one. I don't think I've ever been in one. If I have, I was a little kid. Like I said, we don't have much farming up where I'm from. It's pretty wild, pretty cool. Here's your controls. So I've got them all glassed over except for some little levers. And I'm guessing you've got, not sure what the pedals do. I'm not sure how everything works on one. This is an earlier one because it doesn't have like air conditioning or radio. A lot of the new ones have all that stuff, but it actually does have a radio. There it is. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I wouldn't care to operate one. I just know nothing about them, and I never probably will because we don't have any farming where I'm from. Early steam tractors, and all that. Here's the little Ford that we're really, what kind of tractor we're wanting to get. If we never get one, maybe put hydraulics on it. Maybe a little bit bigger than that, I'm not sure, but that would work. Something like this John Deere. I'd like to get one though, just to use around the shop to move stuff. Maybe something like that. That's a Ferguson, okay. Yeah, these are Ferguson before they became Massey Fergusons. Pretty cool. And there's an old Ford, and here's actually a Ford Son, which were Ford tractors, but they were, I think, sold by a family member. Old Caterpillar. Those are just like track driven, I call them tracos. I'm really not sure what they're really named, or it's usually what they use to move house trailers with now, or something similar. And I'm not a farmer, so I don't know everything about all this stuff, but we'll get some shots of it right quick. Here's another Fordson before they just came Fords. You got some plows and a buggy over there that they use. Big harvester. It's actually a tomato harvester. And then here is another steam tractor. This one is a monstrosity, but it's very, very cool. That's a baler right there. And call them threshers. There's a separator that's used for mostly corn. Those right there are. I do know a little bit about them, but I'm not a farmer, so don't know everything. There's an old Alice Chambers. It's pretty cool. I guess these are replicas. Some of the equipment too. Here's another harvester, so forth, and there's an early combine. Look how old that one is. That's cool. Excuse me. And there. I'm wondering what kind of propulsion that is. It looks like it's early gasoline. Yeah, it's got like a straight 6 in it, I believe. It's a straight. It might be a 4. The Wienermobile. That's right. That's a huge wiener, and this is an old wiener here. This is the original one. So I'm probably going to spare you some of the wiener jokes, but not all of them. 1952. So this actually isn't the earliest one. I think the earliest one was like, it was in the 30s and you had a glass window you set on top. So this one's 1952. I'm not sure what kind of vehicle it was based around or if it was hand built. Well, it's very cool. It's a lot different than the later one we saw at the car show there in town. It's cool looking. Gotta watch out for them old wieners too, you know, they'll get you. The good thing is at least it's a really clean wiener. That's one thing about it, it's super clean. They definitely keep their wiener clean. Modern ones are all fiberglass, but I believe this one is all steel. So it's not only that, it's a lot harder wiener than the newer ones. Now there is a Motorama for the Wienermobile, but I've already got one when Jonathan come here for. But if you want one and you're here, you can have a little wiener in your pocket. But I've already got one, and when you get two wieners together, it's real bad, real bad. People's feelings get hurt, so I'm not gonna buy another one. And then just crazy things like lights and chandeliers and heating stoves. And you don't think about stuff like this. And I'm sure all of us have thrown things away like this. And it's like, now you look at them, hey, it's cool. We should keep them. Look at the old police light. That's pretty cool. And they have this collection of dollhouses here that are super old. You know, dollhouses really ain't a thing anymore like they used to be, huh? Let's see what girls play with those like they did when they were younger. And then we've got vintage kitchens of different eras. This is 1890. And probably here's more of my style. This is probably, I'd love to have one of these sinks like this in my shop to just wash my hands in. This is the 30s, probably a little more my style. And over here, this is 1700s, which you can see they really didn't have anything. I wish they had like a 60s or 70s kitchen or the 50s, but it's still very cool. Prom dresses. I mean, it's just a little bit of everything. Like I said, there's that little wiener, but I've already got one, so I don't need one to be friends with it. Don't want them rubbing together. And this is some kind of interactive stuff. You know, you've got some cumulative models and things. And it's kind of neat. Kids would really enjoy this stuff. So I think my daughter would really love that stuff when she's older, because she's just basically a mini version of me. But I don't know about all kids. Alright guys, that's the Henry Ford Museum in Michigan. Come check it out. Best thing I've ever seen. We'll have some more footage for you, but different stuff around the Motor City. But that's the end of this one. If you don't care, like, share, subscribe. Go rig something up. So you might get it in the Henry Ford Museum.